I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Business Zone. This is Gilbert Buchanan, the small business paramedic, along with my co-host,
Crystal Mitchell.
And today we've got a great show for you. But before that, Crystal, what happened over the last week?
Oh, wow, Gilbert. This was an action-packed week.
Oh,
There was a lot of great stuff going on.
Tell me about it.
Let's just start with Tuesday. Actually, it was Wednesday. I attended it was I guess it was like a round table. It was it was the first of several series of round tables on harnessing the voice of the black business owner and what has been their challenges for acquiring capital for their business. So we're putting together a group of businesses. Actually need about 300 voices on their challenges that they've had on acquiring capital to grow their businesses and scale their businesses.
That is critical, very critical to small businesses.
Really critical because a lot of them don't start with the adequate capital. And also the other areas that we covered on that day was the contract opportunities, which we're going to talk about, and that's your area of expertise.
Excellent.
And the needs, what are their needs, and what do we need to do to help them get to where they need to be in order to do those contracts.
Excellent.
And secondly is wealth creation. How do we create wealth in our African American community? So it was about 15. It was a very short notice. Had to get on the phone to make some phone calls to bring out individuals. So now we're on a quest. In the next 60 days, we need 300 voices. And then there's going to be a summit at the beginning of the first of 2017. And they're bringing together a consortium of lenders that is going to address specifically our issues and in providing that capital for our
Excellent.
businesses.
I think that's a great approach, Crystal. Were you the primary coordinator of that effect?
No, I was not. The primary coordinator is coming from the organization Business Resource Group, Sharon Evans. Everyone,
I know Sharon.
You know Sharon, right? And Sharon's whole thing is about the lending and technical assistance for small businesses and providing funding. And I'm sure you know a lot more about their business. But we all know that there's challenges. We go to these meetings and they're talking about access to capital, and they make it sound like, just come in, fill out the application, and bam.
Doesn't work that way.
It does not work like that.
And see, that's a good reason, Crystal, why we have our system, Small Biz Pro, to help those small businesses.
Right.
And we're gonna walk this through with them step by step, so they understand how to get their business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. And this system we've been working on for 9 years. Crystal and I, we've put this together, and the way we reach out to small businesses, we reach out from the capital standpoint, where we do the finances, bookkeeping, payroll, and all of that. And then from the other side, the contract readiness and business readiness. So this is going to be phenomenal if we all pull together.
And so with that, one of the things that we received as for being part of that focus group and was a pass to the annual, actually it's the 21st annual Ron Brown Business and Economic Summit that was being held this weekend. I guess it's hosted by the California Black Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And so it's being held at the Sheridan Gateway at the airport. A phenomenal meeting yesterday from 9 o'clock in the morning when I got there. It was a panel of amazing women that are in corporate America, and they were talking about their challenges and how you do business in corporate America, which obviously is very different than how you do business in entrepreneurial world.
I hear that. And small businesses need to know that. And that's why we're going to have to train them. We're going to have to keep training them, Crystal.
And that was pretty much the theme all day was why why don't we have more of our businesses that are doing procurement and supply diversity? And they had all of the procurement departments in Southern California. Edison, Sempra Gas Company, AT&T was there, PG&E? PG&E. Yes. And they were all there, and they were saying, yeah, we have these opportunities, but we need our businesses to be there. So I guess one of the caveats of the California Black Chamber of Commerce are that the other Chamber of Commerce or some of them are members of the California, which is from the state level.
Right.
And then they all come together with their members, and it was really an amazing seminar and summit. But the general consensus was that we need to prepare as a collaborative. That was a word that was everyone I spoke to yesterday. That's what we were talking about.
We need to pull together.
We have to work together.
And this might be a great opportunity, Crystal, for us to talk about our program that we've got for small businesses, where we're pooling our resources. You and I are targeting small businesses that we could bring together 6 to 10 small businesses and get them ready, so they can become business ready, contract ready, bank loan ready. Their finances will be in order.
Yes.
Anything they need to know about contract readiness and business readiness, we'll provide that in our workshops also. So this is going to be, it's going to be like a special program where we have these businesses, we work with them for over a period of time.
Right.
Maybe about 6 months.
Probably about 6 months. I've seen, we've done mastermind groups, and 6 months seems to be a great time to keep them in front of you and then be able to launch them out on their own afterwards. The other area as well that was covered, they actually had a contingency came in from Kenya. They flew in specifically for this meeting, and they were coming here to look and talk to various business owners that can do business in Kenya, and they expressed what their needs are and what they were looking to get out of their visit here. So they flew 22 hours from Kenya in order to come and meet with people, and so it was a lot of networking. And guess what, radio audience? Gilbert's a celebrity.
Oh, wow. Am I?
You're a celebrity, Gilbert. When I was out there and I was passing out the flyers for the business owner, they're like, Gilbert is your co-host? They're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Gilbert's my co-host, and people were following me around the hotel and the lobbies and the rooms, and like, okay, all right. So some really great speakers. I met with one. I think you met with her on Thursday. Renita
Naylor.
Right, has an amazing book out that gives you the step-by-step procedures on how to prepare yourself.
Yes.
So that was a great conversation.
She's phenomenal.
She really is. She asked a couple of questions. She says, anyone know what a capacity statement is? Everybody's quiet. And I was trying to really be low-key yesterday. Yeah. I really was not going to be on my regular thing that I do when I get
Well, you know you can't be low-key, Crystal.
I know.
Everybody knows you.
I was trying. So, she asked another question. Do you know what a Dunn's number is?
Street.
And they were like, everybody's looking, okay, all right. So the lady's out here talking to you guys, and you cannot respond to her. So I'm going to have to raise my hand. So I had to raise my hand. And after that, I had cards coming from everywhere. So I actually did mention that we were going to bring 6 to 10 businesses under our banner, and we were going to work. Oh, my God. Folks were getting up out their seats. Okay, I'm one of those, right? Here's my card as I was walking back from the stage. Here's my card. So
one of
Recycling Black Dollars' sponsor, Sempra, was there, and I was sitting next to Rodney Potts, and he says, you're a little popular, aren't you? I said, well, Recycling Black Dollars is popular, so see how popular we are? We need more money.
Audience, Crystal is a celebrity. When she goes to places, I have to say, I'm with her. I'm with Crystal in order for me to get in. We went to a VIP reception recently with Damon John from Shark Tank, and this was at the Congo Room downtown LA. And Crystal was one of the coordinators of this event. And I'm telling you, we've been there standing around waiting for Damon and all the others to come in. And as soon as Crystal walked in the room, I'm telling you, everybody started flocking around Crystal.
Oh,
Everybody, Crystal.
Well, see,
you
that's
got
what-
it going on.
Right, but when you're not around, Gilbert Buchanan, yeah, he came to Moreno Valley and did oh my God, he's good. So see, we're in our own little space. We're our own little celebrities.
You know, as a matter of fact, I did a workshop the day before for GLAC.
Yes.
And it was on value proposition.
Mm-hmm.
We had about 45 or 50 people in that room. That was phenomenal.
Right, I heard a lot about that too, because
yes.
there were a lot of people talking about that.
Oh, yes. And I met your partner there, your business partner.
My business partner, Jackie B. She's called me at 7 in the morning, and she just kept calling, going, "I'm in love with Gilbert. I just love Gilbert. Okay, he's fantastic." Then she goes, "I'm sure you know that, but I just love Gilbert."
See, one of the things that I do when I host my workshops, I tell the clients that they need to make their clients fall in love with them. And that's what I did. I said, hey, I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to make you guys fall in love with me. By the time the workshop was over, it was amazing.
That's what she said. She said there was one that was like a little tough as nails.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She said, but he broke her down,
I
Crystal.
broke her down.
Broke her down.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was kind of what the week was. So really, it's really the same thing though.
This is
Theme
great.
is basically we have to get our business, and you'll like this. So I was in the one of the first workshops, panel discussions we were in, and here comes Sempra and also Edison. So I had already left Sempra a message because I want them on the show in September.
Right.
So then there was Edison as well, Southern California Edison. I was like, you guys, I need. And so I said, perfect, you're sitting at my table.
Good.
So I told him. So when I was telling Vince about the show, and I said, he says, so what's the purpose of the show? What's the mission of the show? I said, to get the businesses business ready, bank ready, contract ready. He goes, oh, wow, you sound just like Gilbert. He said, it's amazing. Those were Gilbert's words coming out of your mouth. Well, he's my co-host. So that's what we do.
That's what we do for entrepreneurs. As a matter of fact, for those of you who are listening, this is part of what we do. Our mission here is to bring entrepreneurs, business opportunity, and supply diversity organizations together so that they can help small businesses become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. So that's what this show does. So those 6 to 10 folks that you met,
right,
we really want to bring you guys in as soon as possible so we can get you started, start working on your business, building your infrastructure so you guys know what your capability statement is, so you can know what the business planning aspect is and all of those things. So yes.
Right, exactly. So it was really, really a good, and it actually kind of led into what we're going to talk about today. So we're always talking about the different opportunities that are out there for African Americans, our community. How can we expand? How can we build that wealth? So we have to be able to do businesses in different ways now. Different businesses changed over the years. Even the way nonprofits operate, even when we're our sponsors, how we're being sponsored. So we as entrepreneurs have to be available for what the trends are.
Got to do things differently.
And sometimes it's not easy. One of the conversations that was being bantered about was sometimes it's not easy to do business in California.
That's true.
Sometimes it's very, very tough.
The cost of doing business here is tremendous. It's outrageous.
It really is.
And that's why we see a lot of businesses like Toyota, Honda, and others are moving out of the state.
Exactly, because it's not as tax friendly. It's not. There's a lot of barriers that really kind of hinder business. But there's another continent that we could actually do business.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I'm here today.
That's why you're here today. So
I want to learn about that.
2 great guests that's going to talk to us about their experiences and going to let us know what are those opportunities and how can we enter into that marketplace, if there are any barriers that need to be addressed, and the solutions, how not necessarily what prevents us from doing that, but what are the ways and the entry points that we can get in.
And what type of business laws we need to know about in order to
Right.
conduct business in those environments.
And what kind of business opportunities are actually there. So
Exactly.
The gentleman, Mr. Alonzo Washington, he is... well, he's going to tell us more about himself, but he's with the African U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and he's been out there across the continent bringing and talking and delegating with people, and he's going to give us some insight on what type of opportunities and what we need to do in order to do that. And so I'm going to turn the mic over to Al. I call him Al.
Okay. And for those of you entrepreneurs who are listening and you want to chime in, our phone number here is 323-293-3375. That's 323-293-3375. So while you're listening, your imagination and your interest is going to be piqued. So give us a call.
Right, and we want you to be piqued. We want you to have
yes.
conversations, because this could be a game changer
Yeah,
for a lot of our businesses. So, Mr. Al, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Crystal. In fact, you just you mentioned something that happened that I think really expresses what the chamber is about. You mentioned there was a group that came here from Kenya.
Yes.
And the Kenyans came here because they were interested in providing business opportunities.
Yes.
For people in Kenya.
Yes.
And they were trying to familiarize you with the business opportunities that existed and to try to recruit businesses who could come and engage with both the public and private sector.
Yes.
To be involved in business opportunities. And in fact, that is essentially what our chamber is about, and that is essentially what our conference is about. We do a conference every year. This will be our 6th year. And we have been very fortunate to be welcomed by the city of Carson, who has provided their convention center in perpetuity at no cost to us.
Oh,
That's
wow,
great.
nice.
To do
That
the
is
conference
great.
every year. So we are actually into our 3rd year this year of doing the conference at the conference center in Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And Carson, by the way, is a very good location, relatively speaking, if someone is interested in doing business, international trade, and with Africa, because number one, the mayor is very interested in doing that. In fact, he's asked me to help put together a trade mission to Africa to bring a business delegation there to talk about business opportunities and to expose local small businesses to those opportunities as well.
Okay.
So that's essentially in a nutshell what this represents. The Kenyan delegation, in a sense, represents the entire continent. There is a very sincere interest on the part of most African nations, and particularly sub-Saharan African nations, to reestablish, and I say reestablish because it is about reestablishing relationships with African Americans. And the interest is not only cultural; it's also business, because they recognize that there is an ancestral historical relationship that exists between our peoples, and which is was because of slavery, and but also because of more than just slavery, because people fail to recognize there are a lot of African Americans who came to this country as free people.
Okay.
They came here from Europe by way of Africa, educated, and they came here and they set up businesses here. And many of them were very successful during the time that blacks from the continent were being enslaved. And so it was, in fact, the free Africans here in the U.S. that were key to the success of not only the Underground Railroad, but the abolitionist movement.
Oh, really?
And they actually were involved in both of those, and in fact, were involved in helping slaves when they were freed to come to the North and to get established so they could transition from slavery into free society.
That is very, very good information
yeah.
here, and I'm sure most of our entrepreneurs, they're getting into this and they want to get some more out of it. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back after 2 minutes. So let's take a break.
Okay.
Didn't know that was going.
Welcome back to the Business Zone. This is Gilbert Buchanan, your co-host, and I'm also the small business paramedic, along with my co-host
Crystal Mitchell.
And we're here with two fantastic guests that we're going to present some key information to small businesses today, how you can expand your business acumen to the other coast, other continent. For those of you who want to participate in our conversation here, give us a call at 323-293-3375. That's 323-293-3375. And we're back with our guest, Mr. Alfonso.
But before he hits it, we want to make sure, at the break, Al was sharing some very interesting information that I didn't know about.
I'm loving that.
So there was really more than... Yeah, and that's so interesting that our history is so fragmented that we don't understand really that once they picked up the segment of slaves, Africans, and brought them here to make them slaves, there were still exchanges obviously going on to help their brethren that had been kidnapped.
Yeah, the movie that illustrated that was 12 Years a Slave. And the gentleman that portrayed that, he was not unique to the American culture. There were a lot of freed blacks that lived in this country who were not slaves and who were doing very well for themselves. So that what happened to him could have happened to any one of us here. But the idea is that they existed, and they existed at the same time that slavery was happening. So what we hear a lot about is the slave portion of our history. We don't hear about the entrepreneurial and the economic development portion of it. The fact that, for example, the AME Church during the same period of time founded over 8 colleges and universities.
Wow.
Right.
All right,
We
in this
never heard
country
that.
during that same period of time.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
So the black entrepreneurship is as much a part of the history of this country as slavery. And in fact, it's more important for us because it represented our efforts to build our own local economies.
Exactly.
And to create havens for ourselves where we could live and be relatively free from oppression that existed in the larger society. And it happened in spite of the fact of Jim Crow and separate but equal and all the things in the Supreme Court ruling that they ruling against us, our existence here. Our ancestors, and they were some powerful people, were able to not only create small business communities, but African American communities, and support each other and help each other, and for that matter, prosper in this country, in spite of it all. So that's the beauty of this. Now, to get back to where we are, probably the best historical thing you need to check out on to understand where we're going is Marcus Garvey, because Marcus Garvey essentially was an advocate for African Americans to reconnect with the continent, not only culturally but also economically. And many of the programs that he promoted and started was geared towards that happening. The chamber itself was founded to more or less continue that legacy. And interestingly enough, the chamber was founded by a Nigerian, a guy named Reuben Jaja, who used to work for the Banking Commission for the state of California. But he recognized that there was no advocate for trading with the continent. Most of the efforts for trade were focused on what it still is today: Asia, Europe, Pacific Rim. And so what he did was he started the chamber during the Tom Bradley administration to begin the process of advocating for trade between the U.S. and the continent of Africa. Now, that effort has expanded to the point where we are today, where we do annual conferences to continue this legacy and, for that matter, begin the process of recruiting small business owners to and expose them to opportunities that exist not only in Africa but throughout the Pan-African diaspora. Wherever we are located in the world is where we need to be doing business with each other.
That's great.
The conference itself is a small business conference. We do not go after corporate contributions. What we want is small businesses to support the conference.
Doing businesses among themselves.
Right.
Okay.
And so our goal is to recruit small businesses, have them come to the conference, meet each other, and to support the conference. Most of our sponsorship has come from small business owners. even. And so we keep the sponsorship levels at low figures so that it's affordable sponsorship. But we also try to have make it affordable for people to not only participate as exhibitors and vendors, but also as registrants. So our fees are literally a quarter of what would normally be charged at a conference.
So now only small businesses who are members can do business?
No. Any small business who has an interest in creating, and I'm going to be very specific about this, creating a department in their business that deals with international trade and who has an interest in trade with the continent are welcome. Now, let's keep in mind that we don't come without support. Our conference has traditionally had the support of the Ex-Im Bank, of the SBA, of the Department of Commerce, of the USTDA, of the State Department, because we often have to not only receive delegations from Africa, but also, as a result of the conference, we take delegations to Africa.
Now, when is the conference? When
it's
is the
September
next one?
16th and 17th.
September 16th
at
and
the
17th.
Carson Community Center.
Okay.
And we'll be there from 9 till 4 on both days. And again, the conference itself is going to focus on the International Decade for the People of African Descent, which is a Pan-African recognition that is being done by the UN.
Okay.
And we're looking at a 10-year period of time when they're going to look at the contributions of not only people from the continent, but people who are of African descent throughout the world.
Now, what do we need to do in order to get involved in this? Because I'm listening to you, and I know Crystal and I work with a lot of small businesses,
Right.
and I'm sure that we can provide some type of contribution or get small businesses
Right.
involved in that process. We have a system here called Small Biz Pro, which I'll tell you guys about a little bit later, that will help at that event.
Right.
So let us know what we can do.
Let me just say this. What you do would be a nice addition to what the event is about. I mean, for example, we have featured SBA, who talks about their programs for small businesses and helping them provide loans, but with their involvement in helping set that up.
Yeah.
We have featured Ex-Im Bank, who talks about how they can help people finance trade transactions. We are involved with the Department of Commerce because the Department of Commerce can help you market what you're trying to do internationally, not just in Africa, but throughout the entire world, as well as USTDA and OPIC, who are part of our connection as well.
Right.
But what we try to do is we try to expose small businesses to the arena of international trade, but they have to understand that international trade has to be added to their business program. It can't be something that they just think they're just going to meld in. They literally have to create an international trade division of their business that focuses on opportunities for what they want to do. And then there are agencies that exist in the U.S. that can help them create that. The Center for International Trade Development will give them an excellent not only breakdown but also instruction on how to develop an international trade division as part of their conference. The Department of Commerce will help them find markets. Ex-Im Bank will help them provide financing. SBA can help them not only provide financing, but also help them develop business plans.
Right.
But all of that is part of the mix. But you see, if you're going to be involved in international trade, you have to have somebody as part of your business that's committed to that, because international trade, why it is a very lucrative if done well, it takes time. And you're looking at someone who's commit to 5 to 7 years of development to actually learn how to negotiate, how to use the SBA and the Department of Commerce and Ex-Im Bank. They have to learn global logistics, knowing how to move products from
their infrastructure must be set up to
handle all that
well.
and do all that research. Okay, and so it's more than a notion, but if you can do it, you will add a very important component to your overall business. And there's a lot of support that's available in this country, because this country right now is very much into promoting U.S. exports to other parts of the world.
Right.
One area that they're very interested in and that there's a growing interest in is Africa. And there are many programs that exist within the Department of Commerce, within U.S. Trade and Development Agency, even at Ex-Im Bank, and an OPIC that are designed specifically to help people engage in the African market.
Right.
But the interesting thing about the African market is that Africans are very interested in doing business with African Americans. There is a very sincere interest. But at the same time, you don't just run into Africa.
Doesn't work that way.
And put up your sign,
and hurry up
with
and
your
try
sign.
to do stuff. Okay.
Doesn't work that way.
You have to take your time,
Yeah.
establish your relationships, and most important, folk, I know this is hard for you to believe, but you got to get on a plane or a boat, and you have to go. You have to spend time there. Okay?
You hear that, entrepreneurs? You got to get
go
on a
to
plane or a
Europe.
boat.
You go to Europe. You go to Paris. You go every place else but home.
Yes.
You need to go to Africa.
Yes.
And spend time there and see for yourself what Africa's about. And
That's
keep in
great.
mind that you're going to a continent, not a country.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
And Alfonso, I'd
Yes, ma'am.
like to just interject here
Yeah, please.
in terms of the work that I'm doing, and that's exactly what I'm doing, is my research first.
Right.
Is to really engage with people, understand the culture and customs and what's needed.
Right.
And coming as I'm here to learn and not that I'm coming as an expert.
Exactly.
And I'm going to share some things with some people that I'm working with that express of people that have come with that attitude,
Right.
that arrogant
Yeah.
attitude.
Exactly.
And I'm here and I have everything to bring.
So to answer your question, what you guys are doing
Yeah.
is very important as far as, first off, making people aware of the conference, letting them know that this is their conference. Okay, the conference was not established for me to make money.
Right.
And you'll see that when you look at the pricing. When you go to the website, you'll see that
Right.
there's no way in the world I'm going to make money off this conference.
Tell us what the website is again.
It's Pan-African Global Trade Conference.com. I'll repeat that again, Pan-African Global Trade Conference.com. Now, when you go to that website, you will see a number of things that will help you. First off, you will see a page there that actually lists all the conference reports that we've done since our first one, and there are 5 reports, and I'm still working on there are 4 reports there now, and I'm working on the 5th report right now. That will be up there by the time we have our 6th conference. In those reports, you will see a documented history of work we've done, who spoke, and whatever accomplishments we had there. But you'll get an idea what the conference was about.
Right.
You'll see our current conference, the list of speakers that are there right now. You'll also see, you have a chance to link to register on site. There'll be a list of the pricing for booths, for sponsors, for people who want to register just as individuals. We have a travel agency that we've hooked up with that out of out of Tennessee, out of Nashville, Tennessee, that's actually handling all of our travel right now. It's a black company,
Yeah.
and I'm unashamedly saying this is a black conference. Now, I'm not saying that white folks ain't welcome, but I am saying that this conference is for us,
Right.
okay, and for our African brothers and sisters. We as a people and business people are on a learning curve, though, when it comes to international trade. And so what we try to do through the conference is help provide them with the resources to begin the process of learning about what international trade is about. And in fact, if they take advantage of the resources that we provide through the conference, they can trade anywhere in the world.
Right.
But we would love to see a focus on the continent, because the continent is very interested in having us there. That's why that group from Kenya came.
Right.
Came.
Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you
Yes,
this.
sir.
Would it be too late for us, Crystal and I, to get on the show, the conference on the 17th, where we can share this system, Small Biz Pro, with those entrepreneurs? Because this system is an amazing system. What it does, it helps to manage the back office. So, as you know, small business, their problem is they cannot find their paperwork. They don't know where it is. This system, what it does, it helps them to store their documents all in one place so they
Right.
can access it in 10 seconds or less
Right.
using a smartphone, a tablet, or laptop. So we want to share this with those businesses, because before they do international business or any type of business at all, they've got to be ready.
Yeah.
If you're not ready, you're going to lose out on opportunities. So that's what this is. So we're
Right.
wondering if, Crystal, if this would be something that we could do on that day, maybe 45 minutes of the time. I don't know.
Well, actually, most of our presentations are 30 minutes long.
Well, even 30 minutes is fine.
And the question, the only problem you've got is that the time is pretty much consumed. But I'm not going to say no.
Right.
Because I like what you're doing,
Right.
and I think that what you're doing would add to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we might want to talk about is how in the future we can use what you do to promote the conference,
Right.
sell registration, and
Right.
do some revenue sharing.
Right,
So
right.
for everyone that comes in through your network, we
Yeah.
get a piece of the
Sounds
registration
excellent. Sounds
fee.
excellent.
So it helps. So we're helping each other.
Sounds
all right?
excellent.
Again, my biggest cost for the conference is food.
Right,
Okay,
right.
if we can pay for the meals,
Yeah.
everything else is taken care of.
Do
They
you
can
have
get their own
sponsors? Do you
hotel.
have sponsors?
Yeah, the sponsors are the people that come. I'm trying to tell you, listen. The
Okay.
sponsors are when you buy a ticket, you're sponsoring the conference.
Oh, okay, I
If you
see.
if you get a booth,
Right.
you're a sponsor of the conference.
Right, right.
Now there are other people that can come in as sponsors. On an individual level, we have a $5,000 level, a $2,500 level, and I think it's about a $1,500 level sponsorship.
right.
But we will literally have no real expenses
Okay.
outside of the food and then the materials we need to provide what's needed. So
Right.
so that's why our costs are low. We want to keep it that way. So and we're very interested in working with the city of Carson,
Right.
because they've been very open to us, very welcoming to us, and through them we've developed relationships with Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is one of our universities that we're associated with.
Right.
We also have a working relationship with Pepperdine University and with UC Irvine,
Very
and we're
good.
expanding that primarily because both of those campuses have programs for entrepreneurship. One is an entrepreneurship program that it provides seed funding for entrepreneurship through Pepperdine that we're going to feature at the conference, and we're going to actually do a small business Shark Tank with
Oh,
a
wow.
group of investors
That
to
is great.
actually receive presentations from people who want to do business, and they will receive advice as to what investors are looking for, because this is about an investor
Yeah.
group that will sit and look at them and say, okay, we can invest in you, but you need to understand what investment is about.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll get education as to what investment is about, but they'll also have an opportunity to make a presentation to 3 people who are involved, who have people in both a social and enterprise investment and private investment, who have money, and and if they see something that they can work with, they will work with you.
That's great.
Okay, I guarantee you that.
That is
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask? So,
Sure.
what are some of the if someone was looking to establish some relationships, and what type of businesses and what kind of opportunities are there?
On the continent, your business opportunities are unlimited. I mean, you name it, it's needed. But probably if I was to actually have people focus on any area at all, it would be the power, providing power, solar, any type of
Utility.
but just providing power.
Yeah.
Because see, right now, for example, I'll give you an example. We just been invited by the Zambian government to put together a delegation to go to Zambia to help them develop their open markets, because they have these open markets where people are selling goods, but there literally is no power grid or infrastructure to support them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look at setting up solar paneling, maybe some wind technology that will give them power they need, and then bringing in refrigeration and other things that they need to help their food stay edible for longer periods of time, but also enhance the environment in which they are actually trying to sell their goods. So we're working on that project right now. Literally anything that's associated with power or providing power or telecommunications even is needed. Business office supplies needed.
Wow.
Anyone who has any background in developing infrastructure, whether it's airport infrastructure, railroad infrastructure, port infrastructure, roads, needed. They have a very sincere interest in anything that is made in America. Okay, clothing, food, clothing. They love American goods because they see them as very high quality, and they will wear a shirt that's made in America just like we would wear something that was made in France.
Right.
The African people are very much into it. The other thing you need to know about the continent is that there are a lot of communities here in Southern California that are basically centered around the people that come from the continent. So there's a Ghana association, there's an association of people from Ethiopia, there's an association of people from Tanzania,
Nigeria.
there's Nigeria. They're here. from Cameroon, live in Southern California, but they formed groups, and they interact with each other, but they have also very strong interest in interacting with African Americans who are sensitive to the continent. So you don't come in there with a European attitude.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you don't do that, you're going to do fine. Mm-hmm. But believe me, these are very intelligent people.
Very good.
And they know they can read you real good, and they appreciate when you're able to read them.
Yeah.
Alfonso, you didn't mention service industry.
No, it's in terms hospitality.
Of,
yes, very much so. One of the things that they like African American food. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but anybody that can, and for that matter, they love. If you can go in and develop a hotel or something like that, that type of stuff that type of enterprise is needed there as well.
And what in relation to health, healthcare?
Yeah, health. They are very interested in developing or improving the healthcare infrastructure, particularly in rural areas. Mm-hmm. Anyone who can go in and put in like a clinic in a village setting. That is self-sustaining. That is very much needed.
My interest is the health
right.
area.
Okay, that would be perfect.
Mental health as well as.
No problem. So literally, what you could do is you could go to a country, and we form an association with the Minister for Health there, and talk to them about what we can do to link up their major hospital with their rural system, and actually help improve their overall healthcare infrastructure and their network. That's very much needed on the continent, right?
And actually, I'm going to step in right now so we can introduce Denise. Denise has, she's like most entrepreneurs.
Before we introduce Denise, I'm sure Denise has some great things she wants to share, so we don't want to miss any of that. Why don't we go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. We'll talk to Denise and talk some more about this wonderful set of opportunities we have in front of us. So, again, our phone number is 323-293-3375. That's 323-293-3375. Please give us a call here on the Business Zone. And again, this is Gilbert Buchanan, the small business paramedic, along with my co-host,
Crystal Mitchell.
And we've got some great stuff for you today. So let's take a break.
So something happened in West Africa like that compared to the rest of the continent.
Okay, so we are back. You're back and tuned into the Business Zone. We're having a really lively conversation about doing business in South Africa. I'm going to introduce our other guest because she also has some contributions to this conversation. She's actually venturing into this area to expand her business. So Denise, and let me first, before I introduce Denise is a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, and we participate in a morning spiritual call. And we've been developing and growing our relationship, and we're also part of a book club. And we're reading a book and helping each other expand our where we are and scale our businesses to that next level. And we're doing it collaboratively together, and encouraging and supporting one another. So when I told Denise that about the radio show, and I'd love to have her on because she had just gotten back from South Africa. Her endeavors have been taking place in South Africa, and I'm going to read a little bit about her bio shortly. But one of the things I had mentioned to Denise, that one of our very first show, I blasted it, boosted the show on Facebook. And one of the unique things about it was we got about just under 15,000 reaches, and
phenomenal.
A great portion of those were from Africa.
Right.
And I was reading to her the countries that had actually tuned in to the show and watched the show, and the age group and the analytics that came with that was ages between the 18 and 34, and it was quite impressive. And I was speaking to a friend of mine that's African, and they were saying because they've gone off to school, they've been educated in London and Great Britain and America, and now they're looking for opportunities to help their country as well as themselves. And so they're looking to us as being that source to help them move that forward. So Denise, I told her I'd love to have her on the show. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Denise. Denise is a community activist, and she's a marriage family therapist intern. And she'll tell you more about that. She's the founding executive director of the Village Mindful Wellness Counseling Center at the Village Health Foundation of Los Angeles. It's a based alternative community acupunctural health clinic. And are you in Lamert, or you were in Lamert?
Actually, we're still in Koreatown.
Oh, they're in Koreatown. And she earned her MA in clinical psychology with a concentration in applied community psychology and a BS in political science from Spelman College. Denise currently manages the VMWC program in the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health program, and these programs at the VHF are dedicated to making holistic health modalities available to underserved communities. So I would assume that is why you just basically what Al just talked about, that the opportunities for mental health and health care in Africa, is that where you're going with this?
Yes, that as well as chronic disease prevention.
Okay.
So just to really be grateful for this forum. Because I've been dibbling and dabbling in different business ventures for the last 30 years, and they say that nothing's a failure, and that is where we fall short, I think, sometimes as African people, is that we fall short we try something that doesn't work, we don't have the support, and we don't do a business plan.
Right,
so Crystal
exactly.
talks about that in her services. So I'm fortunate to be mentored by amazing elders. The Village Health Foundation founder and executive director is Jewel Tice Williams, has been in business for over 40 years. She actually owned a nightclub and has a documentary that was just released, and she's had the clinic for 15 years. And this clinic has served the community on a donation basis, but the model is changing as a result of different things. So my component has been the counseling component, because we know what our community has and is dealing with regarding post-traumatic slave syndrome and other things in our community that get swept under the rug.
I like that. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Love it.
Yeah, Dr. Joyce.
Oh, you have not heard that
Larry.
video?
Never
powerful.
heard of it.
Yes.
Her name is
So
Dr. Joy DeGruy,
Yeah.
DeGruy.
Thank God for that video.
Oh,
Yes.
my God. And
So
she talks about the post-traumatic slave syndrome.
And
you
that
have
is so
to watch
real.
it.
That is
So
so
we
real.
come into the gate
Yeah.
with a lot of
On their
luggage
shoulders.
before we
Oh, yeah.
even step out into the world. So the other work that I've done, and the reason that I ended up venturing into this field, was because I work with our judicially challenged community, youth, and I work with youth that are in the foster care system, knowing that they needed more than just jobs or school. So my role was to help them get enrolled and stay in school and graduate from school. But with the trauma that they had experienced and the post-traumatic slave syndrome that they experienced, it's going to come out one way or the other. So I decided to go back to school at 50. I'll be celebrating my 57th birthday.
Congratulations.
So as I stated, the millennium population is a population that I'm passionate with, because I have two sons, one that's 31 and another that's 29.
I cannot believe that.
Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Again, I have two mentors, one both 77 and 191. So I'll talk a little about them, and that's so important to have a mentorship and a team behind you. So I worked in community for the last 20 years with Community Bill, a very well-known community organization, and knowing that I needed to go back to do this other piece and develop a program that could be an integrated approach. I'm a certified Kundalini yoga instructor, and my idea is to integrate the approach of talk therapy with being able to get whatever it is that we need, because we need options, different options in our community. We know that because how there's a stigma with mental health, and we want to just really educate the community. So our particular agency is under the Village Health Foundation, and again, being gifted with having a mentor that has a place that I can start, because I was in school and starting the clinic doing it both. So we have interns that work, that go out into the community, that work in organizations that may need mental health services that can't afford. So we do a sliding scale, so everyone is welcome to come.
Yeah.
And the work that I'm doing with South Africa, I went in March. It was my first trip. I had been to Ghana before. And as a result of my relationship with Holman United Methodist Church, Reverend Judy and Reverend Sauls, that are from South Africa, was connected to family. So now I have family. As you know, when you go, you have family.
Right.
So what made you decide to go to South Africa?
Well, my mentor, this 91, has 2 schools in Durban, and so wanted to really begin to work with her to continue. She's in complete health, but is experiencing dementia. So I'm galvanizing youth that can come in and pass the torch, because that's another thing I feel in our community, the torch doesn't get passed.
That's right.
It gets buried. It gets buried. So let's pass
Just like the elevator doesn't get sent back down, when someone in our community has made it and they take that elevator up to the top floor where now they're big, they don't send it back down.
And because of the work that I've done with young people, helping them get into college and graduate, they're recircling back around. They can't find work. They're frustrated. So really wanted to introduce them to the continent. So I'm developing with Ashley Sauls, who's Pastor Sauls' nephew, that's now my nephew, a program called South LA to South Africa, and he wants to bring young people from South Africa to South LA and do an cultural exchange program that has 5 pillars: leadership and development, academics, enrichment, spiritual empowerment and engagement, cultural awareness and exchange, and leadership development. So to really begin to work and empower them to do the work. So that's a 2-year project, and my main focus has been to really be engaged and integrated with to understand the culture. So I was able to do work when I went in March, and I'm going back to do work with the Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center, where I'll spend a week there with the women and, again, really get engaged, working with community, doing classes, teaching. I'm going to be going back with another group that's going to be participating in a conference called Black Portraits, and it's sponsored by NYU and Columbia. So other people that will be going will be participating in the work that I'm doing. So I'm actually bringing something opposed to coming. What I have everything to offer, but how can we partner and work together? How can we work together and not, I'm this American and I have everything and you have nothing to offer. And that was one of the things that was expressed several times by people in community that I had met and encountered.
That's the attitude they had.
Yeah, that I have everything and you have nothing, which we know that's not the case, as you expressed, Al.
So you have delegates. How many delegates are you actually interacting with in Africa, or individuals that are in Africa that are wanting to do business, countries?
We're working with all the African consulates here in Southern California.
Okay.
There's about 12 of them here.
Okay.
And so we have a relationship with all of them. So, and all of them, for the most part, have an interest in promoting their nation as a business, as a place for business opportunities. The biggest problem we have with most of them is educating them and teaching them how to use their consulate office to promote their country as a business location, not just a tourism location.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because sometimes they get here and they start thinking about tourism and they're processing visas, and they're not thinking about the fact that they could actually represent their country's interest. I'll give you an example of a successful enterprise that gives you an example of what we're talking about. The former Consul General of Ethiopia helped us develop a delegation that went to Addis. We were there for about a week. You maybe heard of a lady named Aniva. Probably never heard of
Yeah,
Neva.
she did.
Okay,
Did
well,
she have
Neva
a
was part of our
gift shop in Lamert, right?
Well, she
Gift shop.
was
Beautiful
part of our
clothing.
delegation.
Okay.
She went there with us because we were promoting her designs, and she was looking for someone in Ethiopia who could manufacture her designs. When we went there as a guest of the government, but we also went there with support of the embassy in Ethiopia. We actually did a fashion show at the American Embassy in Addis, where we featured her. And my children were in the fashion show. They were much younger then.
Okay.
And then we hooked her up with a textile manufacturer. And as a result of that contract, she had a manufacturer who was actually manufacturing her designs in Africa, and she then would have shipped here and sold here. Okay.
Wow.
So those are the kind of business opportunities that we can take advantage of, because the people on the continent want to do business with African Americans, and that type of business, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And I remember that Neva did an excellent job representing, as she always does, representing.
Where is she?
herself.
Is she still in Los Angeles?
I don't know. I don't know where she is now.
Because
Yeah, I
she
don't
used
know
to be
either.
in Lamert
She used to be
Park,
right in
and I
Lamert
know
for a while, yeah, but
she.
she was doing fashion shows all over the place. But she did a fashion show in Ethiopia. What she actually did was she recruited local Ethiopian women
Which
to
is good.
actually wear her goods.
That's good.
Yeah, right. And she actually even hired a woman to actually braid the hair of my children, and also of the other women who were participating.
they would be-
So she did what African Americans should do.
Right, and that's the engagement piece.
That's the engagement
because
piece.
that was what
Right.
I did in terms of contacting people that had
Right.
been and lived on the
Right.
continent. I have it's a fashion designer that's in Chicago now, and
Right.
he was designing for Mandela when he was there,
Got it.
and he wants to do a reunion
Right.
to take people over, but again, really engaging and
Right.
not coming with I have this attitude that I have everything.
Right.
So my idea was to really connect with people and do really an assessment.
Right.
What is needed, and how can I learn from, and we learn together, and we
Exactly.
collaborate,
Yeah.
and we work together, and then begin to bring people, because my mentor that has taken probably over 3,000 people back and forth to Africa, she has a foundation, Dr. Betty Yates Foundation, and she has 2 schools in Durban
Yeah.
where she has been supporting. So
Yeah.
just amazing work that I want to be supportive of and continue, but know what areas and do my research first, and wanting to take people to do that.
Yeah, and that's an example of what we call cooperative economics, and it's like that's how we do things. That's how we do business. But because of the syndrome, we've lost sight of who we are.
Exactly.
Right.
And but going back to the continent helps us to reestablish those relationships.
And we help each other,
Yeah, we
because
help
we
each
know
other.
there are a lot of things that are going on in the continent
Right.
too that need to be balanced out
Yes,
in terms of
Yeah.
a lot of things.
And they
But-
see us as a resource to help with it.
Exactly. But
That's
going
great.
in with humility. I want to just share something. Ashley Sauls, who is called the Bible Coach, and he does work, and he is, I think, 26, so he's part of that generation, so being able to help with that. He basically would welcome foreign business, but detest the arrogance and the supremacy that's attached with that when some of us come over to
Right.
do business.
Yeah.
In many circles, we feel that it's a different form of slavery. This is what he shared with me, that the people feel there's a different form of slavery when you come with this arrogance, like,
Yeah.
I have this and you don't have anything to offer.
Yeah.
The advantage, obviously, is the strength of our currency. The strength of the currency and being able to do that, but it's welcome.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be able to work with him. He's connected me to community, and I'm grassroots.
Yeah.
So really, they're wanting to see what resources that I can bring, and we can work together and share.
Yeah.
So that's
what
the
are
work.
some of the things? So you're saying there are 12 different chambers here. So
No, the consulates.
consulate is here.
The
Are
LA
they,
Consular Corps has a consul general's office for most of the world. And of those, I think it's around 8 to 12 of them are actually African consul generals. And so they essentially are here to represent that specific nation.
okay.
Okay.
So are there avenues where some of that exchange can take place
Yes.
here on the U.S. soil?
Yes.
So when we go over there,
Right.
you are a little bit more acclimated, and
Yeah.
you see them as just like yourself,
Yeah.
with the same challenges that we may have, but bridging a gap between
Right.
the brethren, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
so that we can eliminate that, or at least minimize that type of attitude when we get over there, because you're interacting with them like everybody else. I mean,
Right.
they're no different than we are. We just happen to be in the U.S. and they happen to be from the continent that we were supposed to be from.
But again,
Now-
what
now
Al
let-
mentioned was actually people need to go there because some people
Yeah.
feel like, oh, everybody's living in huts.
Right.
But if anybody that's been to South Africa know
Yeah.
that that's not the
That's
case.
no.
All
Yeah.
right,
Let
yeah.
me ask this question. Do you think it would, well, I'm sure it would be useful for us to have workshops to
Yeah.
prepare people before
Absolutely.
they go?
Yeah, and in fact, one of the things that I was doing was I was taking people on trade missions to Africa, and I stopped.
Right.
And the reason I stopped was because I recognized that the people didn't understand the opportunity that
Right,
existed.
right.
So what I did was I said to myself, okay, what I need to do is I need to prepare people in advance before
Right.
they go.
Right.
And they need to actually meet Africans here in the U.S. We
Right.
can talk to them about Africa,
Right.
and not meet somebody from the Department of Commerce who would talk to them about Africa. And for example, I'll give you this is a funny story, but
Right.
it's real. At one of our conferences, one of our brothers from Africa, when he came to the U.S., he said it made him laugh because somebody asked him if he would like to go with them to see the zoo.
Oh,
Oh no!
Lord.
Oh no!
And he laughed. He said, "With the zoo." He said, "I'm surrounded by I'm surrounded by this every day.
That is
I've learned to live
unbelievable.
with the animals, and
Oh,
they're not
my.
caged up. And so, all right. And so he said, "No, I'm not interested in going to the zoo." He said, "I want to do something else." But it was funny to him, and it made everybody laugh. Because I've actually been in environments in the continent where I could appreciate exactly what he was saying. Because
Yeah.
it's one thing to see an animal in the zoo,
Right.
another to see them in the wild, free,
right.
and you know that you got to keep your distance, and,
Right,
and you
exactly.
got to respect.
It's one of those innocent level
Yeah.
of ignorance.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But
It's-
yeah,
Because you only know it
Yeah.
from what you see on
Yeah.
television.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
and that's our
Yeah.
problem. So what we've got to do as a people is we have to reacquaint ourselves
Yes.
with our cousins and our family in Africa.
Yeah.
Right.
And the best experience I have is when I take African Americans there, and they get off the plane and they start seeing the African culture in its varied aspects. I mean, you have people who live in villages, but you also have people who live in mansions.
Yeah.
Okay, all in the same environment. In fact, the only place that I've been to in my life where I met a man who had a 6-story mansion with an elevator was in Uganda. All right? Okay, and he's just one example of the level of wealth that exists on the continent and people who have that type of money.
And actually, a way to do that, I love foreign film, and so I watch a lot of the Nigerian and the Ghanaian and the of film and South African. I watch Indian movies and you do that on Hulu and Netflix, and it's English subtitles if you can't understand the language, and it gives you a different impression. So there was a show that I watched recently, and it was of 5 young women, and it reminded me of a Sex in the City.
That was the South African film.
Yeah, was it
I
South?
saw it.
No, they actually were from
No, it was Nigeria.
Nigeria,
Yeah,
and so
Nigeria.
they
I saw
had been
that one.
living
Yeah.
all over the continent, right?
Yes.
And then they came back then they came home because they came home to be with their families, and when they came home, sorry, here, let me get this. When they came home, now they were.
I need to talk to you later.
When they came home,
call you in about
they
3 hours.
now were recognizing that the water level, the lights go out, the things that they weren't dealing with in the U.S. or in London or Great Britain or wherever they happened to be living, now all of a sudden they were living there, right? And the power outage. And it's really a cute show because it really showed their life, and then how they interacted with the men, how the men were different than the men in America,
Exactly.
and that kind of stuff. So I was dying. I did like a binge night one night to watch them, and I can't even remember the name of it, but I believe it was on Netflix that I saw it.
And now with the advent of the internet and Skype and WhatsApp, I mean, it's like you're next door because I talk to my contacts. At least we have a weekly meeting. And it's just so accessible. Again, the exchange program that we'll do will start to connect the young people so they can begin to develop a relationship. So when they go, they would develop a relationship and can see some things and do some things. So
Right.
I'm excited.
Now, the Obama administration has set up a program, entrepreneur program for Africans in the continent to prepare them to do business internationally. So it's possible that you might want to look in how you can hook up with that program because he'll help you find Africans through the program there. that may be able to come this way. But I'm trying to talk to Karen Bass about establishing a similar program for entrepreneurs here in the U.S. to prepare them to go to the continent.
Okay.
So
That would be
That sounds
great.
like, yeah.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that we need to be bugging
Yes.
our elected officials about.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend that grew up, was born and born and was there until she was 19 in South Africa. But her whole entire family lives in South Africa in Johannesburg, I believe. Gilbert, yeah. And her mom, in fact, her mom just left and went back. And I've known her and her husband, my girlfriend and her husband for close to 20-something years now. And when he first brought her from South Africa, he and I worked together, and she's a beautiful woman. So when he got here, he had to go out of town. He's like, okay, I'm turning her over to you. You are to keep her away from any of these American men here until I get back. And so we developed a friendship, but they go back every year. Her son, who is now 11, I guess, and he has been in South Africa as much as he's been here in L.A. They live in Orange County, Irvine. But her husband has been doing business out of the country for years. I mean, he had a nightclub. In fact, he met her in London. But he was in South Africa, and he had a club there, so he knew a friend of hers, and they met, though, in London. And then they get connected, and then she went back and forth, and they've been go back and forth home. And so right now, he's in Dubai, so he's been doing business in Dubai and all over Malaysia. He's got an amazing lucrative deal that's going on with them, with all those countries over there. So we have really limited ourselves. But years ago, there was a contingency of people that went to Africa all the time.
Yes.
So what happened to that? They were all wanting, I guess maybe that was when we were all feeling like we feel now, that maybe that might be our next home.
Recycle, yes, yes.
So I need to know these people, right? So maybe that was what was going on during that time. It felt like a kinship. I need to know these people. And so they were going all the time. But then you didn't hear as much in latter years that people were going to the continent.
Well, I'm fortunate because one of my best friends moved there, and she's working with an organization that is developing schools. The founder is from Nigeria, and his wife is from South Africa. And so it gives me the flexibility to have somewhere to stay, so I can freely move around. So I'm really fortunate with that. But his idea is to open 100 schools on the continent over 10 years. So she's helping and assisting with that. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's logistics and
It's
that
logistics.
matters.
I know for my birthday this year, and I've mentioned this on the show before, and friends of mine know this. For my birthday, that's what I gifted myself, was my DNA that done by Ancestry.com. I needed to know what was happening here in America, but it also let me know from where on the continent that my ancestors, my DNA genes kind of floated around. So mine is Nigeria and Cameroon and actually, I'm all over the place. So, and I told my sister, I said, okay, here's the deal. If I got to leave because of whoever's going to become president, I got some relatives that I am going to go hook up with.
Because again, you become family.
Yeah, I'm going to have some family on, and I'm going to go back to the continent, and I'll stay over there until it gets normal back over here again. But at least I know where I can go.
Now, before we go to the next break, I wanted to share some things also with both of you regarding our system, the system that Crystal and I are promoting with small businesses, and it's called Small Biz Pro, which is just a postcard with some of the services. And what it does, it helps small businesses with record keeping. You can manage your records right at your fingertips. It also assists with your back office management. So when you have your invoices come in and all of those things, you can use a system to pretty much manage that. It also assists you with free bids and procurement opportunities. So what we have in the system is we have a number of different bids and procurement opportunities. You can just log right in, and you don't have to go to different websites to find these opportunities right here. Right in the system. So whether it's the County of Los Angeles, the SBA, federal opportunities, LA Unified School District, LA Metro, all of those, it's right there. and it's free.
Yeah.
We've got market research. It also assists with market research. So anything you want to learn about the landscape of your industry, it's right there as well. You know, the size of the marketplace. Your general business operation management, it assists you with that. For example, small businesses, as we know, small businesses are good at their craft. But when it comes to managing the business, those skills are missing. So this system kind of helps them with that. So for example, if they need to do HR, you know, disciplinary action, they need to do orientation, evaluation, any of those things, the system has that process in there for them as well. Cash flow management, which is a big piece, you know, and Crystal plays a very critical role in that. As a matter of fact, Crystal and I, we have a contract with Mount SAC right now, Mount San Antonio College, where she teaches bookkeeping and payroll. And she's been doing a phenomenal job. And I just think bringing the Small Biz Pro system with what you do, you know, Crystal and I partnering with all of you to do this, it will be a phenomenal thing. And that's why on the 17th, I'm thinking it's going to be great for us to be there and to take care of that.
What we might want to do is, if we're going to incorporate you, and I want to talk to you about this.
Yes.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Yes.
We can add a global logistics piece to this.
Yes.
That would prepare people to get involved in international trade.
Yes.
And there's also probably a trade finance
Yes.
component to this
Yes.
that we could add to this just to help people develop that international component. Also, what you're doing is important because your service orientation is greatly needed.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've found is that many NGOs in the which is like a nonprofit corporation,
Right.
they really could be more effective than they are. And anybody that can come there to help them enhance their service capacity is needed.
Right.
Okay, so particularly in the healthcare area, but healthcare and education are two areas where they definitely need.
And those are a combination where
Yeah.
I cross over.
Yeah,
Because
and it's a natural. It's a natural.
Without health, there's no wealth.
Right.
And just like here is being overlooked, I do chronic disease prevention.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same ailments are happening there on the continent. Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, the same things.
Well, you know, what you're doing is interesting. I'll tell you, it's at a different level.
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly how this works.
Yeah.
I brought the Port of Durban here to meet with the Port of LA. And the goal was for them to sit down and talk about how they could do business with each other. Because believe it or not, the Port of LA does not have a lot of shipping routes to Africa. And so, and they're interested in doing it.
Yeah.
And so, but the problem is going through all the rules and maritime rules
Logistics
and
and all
regulations
that.
that it takes
Yeah.
to actually establish a route.
Right.
But so they both made presentations about what they were doing at their different ports. And you know what? The presentations were almost identical in terms of what they were doing and what their needs were.
Wow.
And you would
Wow.
think that the Port of LA would be more advanced, but
Right.
no.
Wow.
It was at the same
Same
level
level.
as the
Right.
Port of Durban.
Wow.
Okay. And so they kind of looked at each other and you begin to realize that what you're doing, and you say, I want to do this in Africa. We need it right here in the U.S.
Yeah.
You know, it's no difference. Wherever we are, we have the same needs.
Exactly.
So what I did was I pulled up something, and I hope I didn't lose it.
Before we pull that
Yeah.
up, can we take a quick break? This is our
Please.
last break. We're going to go into the last segment of this. So for those of you who are listening, you want to participate in our conversation, 323-293-3375. This is the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert Buchanan. We'll take a break.
As we're back on, hi, how are you? How's everyone? Caught me in mid-sentence. I was going to ask a question. So, like when we are talking about individuals and you're going to share with us the opportunity. So let me ask this question when we're talking about doing business on another continent. Just as it is here for a business to be business ready for contracts and supplier, I would assume it would need to be the same thing. You need to have you have a business plan and know what the heck you're doing.
Absolutely.
And that you have what that international trade aspect of your business is,
right.
That you're financially sound, that you know how that you're going to make money and the pricing, because that may be different there than it is here. So understanding the capacity that your business can perform whatever the services or products that is providing for that continent.
Yeah, what they're looking at, they want to purchase technology. They want to purchase technology or services from you.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at primarily.
Yeah.
So any like for example, there's a company that I'm aware of that develops infrastructure, the construction management company. And so they literally have been hired by a Nigerian company to actually assist them in that area, help them learn how to manage major construction projects. Okay, so that's a service they're providing, and they're being paid for that. Okay, and for that matter, the gentleman who actually provides that service is going to be a speaker at the conference. He's going to talk about his experiences in Nigeria. And what we also learned, though, and the beauty of it is a real-time presentation. You find out what it's really like to engage at that level, because it's, I wish I could say it was trouble-free. There was no problem. Oh no. Our people are our people wherever we go.
I love it. So then that's through the DNA. Then is that what we're saying?
But at the same time, the reason I love Africa is because I love to be someplace where black folks are in charge. I just feel very positive about that.
Yes.
Anyway, and I'm also very comfortable. I have a hard time leaving the continent whenever I go. That's why I don't like to go, because I don't want to leave.
Don't want to come back.
Anyway, here's I'm going to give you some areas where there's business opportunities: telecom and ICT, energy, and that's excluding oil and gas. So you're talking about solar power, wind power, any type of alternative energy systems needed.
You said telecom?
Telecom and ICTC. Anything in that area is needed. Okay. Real estate. Believe it or not.
Real estate.
Real estate. There are people that, and one of the things that is needed there is real estate financing.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly.
That's good
Logistics and warehousing. Okay. One of the things that people need to over there is anyone who can help them improve anything that's associated with moving products, doing roads and railways, and or storing, and storage is needed.
Storage, okay.
Yeah, agribusiness. You're talking about developing infrastructure for that. Agribusiness, food and growing, processing, transportation, refrigeration, anything associated with food, development of food is needed. Aviation, developing airports, servicing airplanes, developing airport infrastructure to include computer-based systems is needed. Tobacco manufacturing, growing and processing tobacco, food and fruit processing, travel and tourism, fish farming, fishing and fish processing, any type of construction needed, mechanized farming, and that's part of the farming process. They have consignment shops. Anyone who can go over there and set up a consignment shop where you can provide food, clothing, particularly American-based products, excellent. Believe it or not, water refill stations.
Wow.
Okay.
You remember we saw that on that show, the VIP show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, okay. Rental services. Anybody that can help people rent anything. Public address systems, chairs, tables, canopies. A lot of people needing that. Equipment leasing is related. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the types of services, and that's just like I mentioned about it was about 10, 12, about 16 different areas where services are needed. But that's just a drop in the bucket.
That could revolutionize.
Oh, yeah.
So what are the costs that are associated with obviously travel is a thing, and you would be importing, or even if you were arranging, so you're not necessarily housing the product unless you're manufacturing them, but we don't really have any manufacturing companies. But is that opportunity available there?
To what?
To manufacture there at a lower cost than you would
if you had the ability to set up a manufacturing operation there, that would be good. But there are manufacturing operations there, but there need more. One of the areas where there are a lot of manufacturing being done is in the textile area, but it's needed. Food growing and processing, coffee, tea.
I mean, these are just basic things. This is just stuff that we take for granted in the United States. Yeah. But you would have an open field to doing that there.
If you had the ability to set up any type of manufacturing operation in the continent, that particularly would help them do all the value addition for their commodities in the continent, as opposed to having them constantly shipping commodities out where all the manufacturing and the processing is done in Europe or someplace else. Is what they're looking for. Okay, a major area they're looking for is food processing. If you could just go in there and teach them canning, how to do canning and putting things in jars.
It's interesting you said that. My friend that's from South Africa, but her husband, he actually just recently brokered a deal for his company and with the Thailand. And so he has a public company. It's a publicly traded company. And so the Thailand government purchased $100 share of his company and provided it to all of their farmers. Just revolutionary. Really? And so he was saying, and they also have an educational component to the company, and I'm a shareholder in that company, and so they're going to teach these farmers how to be business people. So he had asked me, he said, Crystal, I may need you to go over there to teach bookkeeping to them, so how they can manage and track and their inventory in their farming, because they don't have those. So of course we'd work with a translator. So when we think about what you just said, that was America before we got here. And we structured this company. We built this country. And so just imagine, take what we did here under force and go back there and do that purposely and build that country up and create the relationships with your motherland where you came from. Now that's some karma, isn't it?
And you said company.
Yeah,
and that wasn't a slip for a reason.
That was not a slip. That wasn't a slip for a reason. That means the company, right? The company, and we're gonna go over there as the company and create, and can go over there. So we really need to look at this on a serious level. So I say to our radio audience, and for any of you that you have business opportunities and business ideas, this is like an open. Once you get through the logistics and understanding the people, and obviously there's ways to do that. The conference is the first step, is to at least come in and interact and talk and get to know and get to find out what information is available for you. But at the same time, think about the opportunities to create wealth for us here by doing it with people that look just like us. That
want to do business with us.
And that want to do business with us and are not looking to undercut us or to cut us out solely just because of the color of our skin. And I think from the post-traumatic slave syndrome, which is interesting that they're suffering from it, but I guess we were taken from them. They divided the family and separated out the same situation.
I call it over there, it's post-colonization.
Yes,
post-colonization.
Yes, exactly.
It's a different thing, because they basically are recovering from that colonial experience they've had. And that's still happening.
And it's still happening.
It's still ongoing, particularly in South Africa. They're going through a major trauma right now.
Yeah.
Because Gilbert, your country, Jamaica. Gilbert is actually from Jamaica.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine
I heard that.
You heard You heard it.
We have some people coming down, hopefully this year, from Barbados who are going to come and represent CARICOM.
Oh, great.
And talk about the Caribbean community's interest in interacting with us. In fact, we're going to deal with it in the area of reparations.
See, that's another aspect we need to address, the CARICOM aspect.
Yeah. Oh, it's a major one.
Because not too many people know about it, and there's some things going on there. There are opportunities and challenges.
Yeah, but they're actually recognized by the African Union as a sovereign group. Yeah. And we're trying to create a similar type of solidarity within the Pan-African diaspora as a whole. Right. And CARICOM is way ahead of it, because they're going to come and talk about that as well as their move towards reparations.
That's great.
And we want to actually collaborate with them through our local reparations group to develop an international reparations
That's
movement.
excellent.
We're going to have that discussion at the conference.
Have you guys had that conversation with Dr. Anderson?
Dr.
Claude Anderson? He has an institute called the Harvest Institute, and he's also working toward. He wrote Powernomics.
Oh, okay.
Right, and he's been working for the last, because he actually was the one that penned the what is the amendment?
What's that?
The Equal Rights Amendment for us, for affirmative action. He actually penned that. He worked in Washington, and he was the one, and came back and made the amendments for the 14th and the 16th, 15th and 16th Amendment. So he's been working in that area. So you might want to reach out to him.
We probably have some connections with him to the group that I'm working with called the United Reparations Front, who will be featured at the conference. But I'm going to be making an effort to get the United Reparations Front hooked up with the CARICOM group. And so they're supposed to be sending a representative down, a couple of people down, to sit down with us and talk about what's happening with CARICOM. And what we hope we'll do is there'll be a meld, if you will, that will take off from there, because we need to make this international movement.
If you don't mind, can you just speak a little bit to CARICOM? Just give a definition so the listeners know what CARICOM is all about.
The CARICOM it actually stands for the Caribbean Community, and it is literally all of the island nation states that are part of the Caribbean community. Jamaica, Trinidad, San Martinique, Guadeloupe, just to name a few, Cuba, which is Barbados, and
is Puerto Rico part of that or no?
Good question. I don't think so. I think they're still officially American, owned by the U.S., which is to their.
I think they're having some major issues.
Right now, they owe a lot of money to the U.S. government, and they're trying to figure out how they can renegotiate that debt. And if I was them, I would be trying to figure out how I can get out of it. Get out of the loop and say
Sounds like those student loans.
Sounds like a forgiveness thing before the last step.
Of the CARICOM community is that the fact that they are coming together as a sovereign group as a sovereign region. They're actually going to have their own economic regional economic community that is powerful. Right. That is very powerful. In fact, what they're doing is similar to what is happening on the continent already. Because the continent actually is divided into about 5 or 6 regional economic communities. And what the CARICOM is basically is a Pan-African regional economic community. And what we've been advocating for is to have the same thing happening in the CARICOM, happening where we are internationally.
Right.
So that essentially CARICOM becomes the model for how we establish a regional economic community that literally then becomes the 6th region that we can then engage with the African Union.
And the philosophy about this is that the countries that are a part of CARICOM, the philosophy is that they do business with each other. So instead of doing it outside or depending on other, they do it among themselves and build that wealth and that sustainability.
Right.
So and that will trump any other economic opportunities or approaches.
Yes.
So that's a great thing. So we'd love to promote that some more.
And that could actually be a great connector here because so many people are from the island.
The connectors already exist.
Right.
It is through Barbados that slavery came into the U.S. And all the major banking and financing was actually done through Barbados.
Okay.
I learned that when I went to Barbados.
Oh.
And I was like amazed at the education they gave me the week I was there. And I'm like, man, for that matter, I had the same problem leaving Barbados that I have leaving Africa. I didn't I didn't want to leave.
So why didn't you stay?
I had to come back. I got 2 kids to raise.
See, that's the beauty. That's the beauty, though. When you go to a lot of these Caribbean islands, when you go there, it's like an education.
Yeah.
You're probably on vacation and you're having fun, but it's an education as well.
Right.
So that's the beauty of it.
And I've been to Trinidad and I've been to Guadeloupe as well. Okay, and Jamaica.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So and I haven't been to all of them, but I've been to those.
Oh yeah.
And so I really and the African influence is there.
Yeah.
Wherever you go.
Yes.
In fact, in Guadeloupe, it was amazing. They think of themselves as being French, but these are African people.
How do you look at it? And you know, my girlfriend
the
is
dance, the music, and everything. It's all African.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but anyway, that's
my girlfriend is Cuban. They were born on Cuba.
Yeah.
One of her grandfather, her father's family is from Barbados, and her mom's family is Jamaican.
Yeah.
And so, but she was born in Cuba, so they immigrated from Cuba to here. But they're Cuban and they speak Spanish and they live a Cuban household. Right. But I believe her family actually, and Daisy, if you out there listening, as you should be listening,
call us and correct us.
But I believe that there's land there, and I've been trying to go to Cuba, been wanting to go to Cuba with her. Her older brother actually immigrated here in the last 20 years. And so they're actually been back and forth. They go back there like every year to Cuba to be there. But and that's what she says. She says when you go to Cuba, when you see, and even Brazil, when we were watching the Olympics, you see what looks like the whitewashed part of it, but that's not the country.
Right.
That's not the real country. It looks like Jamaica, and when I went to, I've been to the Virgin Islands and Saint Martinique and Bahamas and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is more of a Spanish, but and somewhere else I went Cozumel. Cozumel actually there's an African kind of Indian, Aztec Indian kind of influence. So when you leave our country,
that's the important thing.
You got to leave here
for a minute
and go to other countries and see where we all are. And with the internet, one of the things we've seen, we're all over the entire world.
Right.
Everywhere there's evidence that the African, wherever the migration took us, that's where it was, or where we actually started, and others immigrated into the countries that were already ours.
There's evidence.
And Crystal wanting everyone to know that it's accessible. I mean, my round trip ticket was $700.
Right.
Wow.
So I mean,
To where?
To South Africa.
Really?
Yeah.
So I mean, there are ways, and people think it's thousands.
No,
Is it nonstop?
Yes.
No, it's affordable.
Really?
My niece goes to Egypt. I think her flight, she left. She's there on location right now. She's a makeup artist, and she's actually grew up she was born in America, but her father's Egyptian, so she's got dual citizenship. So she's in Egypt now. She's working on the movie set doing makeup. She's a makeup artist, and I think it was $600-700 to go to Egypt.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a round trip ticket if you
don't plan back east. It could be
Right, exactly. If you don't plan for it, that's
a round trip to New York.
Yeah, it could be a round trip to New York.
So here's what I want to do, since we only have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
I would like us to talk a little bit about how we can incorporate the CARICOM philosophy in a lot of what you're talking about, and how we're doing what we're doing to help a lot of these entrepreneurs recognize, because I teach classes at Edison also, SoCal Edison. And one of the things that we teach, which is a whole different way of educating and building entrepreneurs, is that instead of you going after certain opportunities that you may never get, why don't you form collaboratives and go after the opportunities that way? Because then you build your capacity, you're much bigger, so you can go after it collectively, and then the contract provider will look at you in a different light.
Right.
It's the same thing with a CARICOM. We're thinking if we can build our resources and do business with each other instead of going after certain entities, then you see what I mean?
Yeah. The power of what CARICOM is doing is actually centered around what the African Union has made available, at least so far, to the Pan-African diaspora as a whole.
Right.
In about 2003 or 4, the union actually did a resolution where they invited basically the Pan-African diaspora to become part of the African Union as what they call a sixth region.
Right.
Okay. CARICOM's engagement is probably the most advanced form and the most organized response to that invitation, because they immediately recognized that the power of the relationship had to be based upon a collaboration that had economic impact and not just political impact. And so one of the things that a local professor here named David Horn did was he actually, in response to that, he formed what was called the Sixth Region Diaspora Caucus.
Right.
And his goal was to actually begin the process of talking about how the diaspora, not only in the U.S., but wherever we are internationally, can get and be involved with the African Union in economically as well as culturally. And so we've actually developed a concept for forming the diaspora as a whole as a as an economic development, as an regional economic community. And then having us then to begin to learn how to trade with each other wherever we are in the world, whether we're in Central South America, whether we are in Europe, or for that matter, in the Caribbean, and begin to talk about how we can begin to do business with each other, but then form a regional community that supports each other and deals with our developing our internal economies, and then also as have those internal economies begin to trade with each other. So that we've actually developed a paper proposing that, and we've actually made a presentation to the African Union just recently for, and we've invited the Union to send a delegation to our conference this year to talk about where they are on this. They recently just had a meeting in D.C. where they made a presentation to our group and asking us to come back with a proposal, which we did. But we are really engaged in trying to push this, because we don't necessarily need to have the African Union invite us to do what we need to be doing. What CARICOM has done is CARICOM has not waited for the African Union. They actually have recognized the power of that collaboration.
Exactly.
And what we need CARICOM to say to us, to be honest with you, is, look, stop arguing with each other. Stop waiting for Africa. We can do it right now, and we don't have to wait for that. Okay. So what we're hoping is that the inspiration that will come will be that we can begin to follow the CARICOM model and become part of an international community that will include CARICOM and also what we're doing now.
And that would be fantastic.
Just so our listeners know, there are 15 countries that are involved in the CARICOM program. So they collaborate. You have 15 countries trading and doing business among each other. That's phenomenal.
That is phenomenal.
That
changes that changes the game as well.
Also keep in mind that the African Union just recently signed off on what's called a tripartite agreement. So what's happening now is literally about 26 African nations have come together as a collaborator, and they're actually beginning to talk about how they can make that an entire economic region in itself. So that's literally half the continent. So what we have here is the potential for the formation of the entire continent coming together really as an African Union, as opposed to in real time, as opposed to a name only. And that would then begins to form what we call the United States of Africa, but we don't want it to be USA. We want it to be called something else.
I feel you.
That collaboration itself, where now the nations begin to trade with each other, they break down the tariffs that they're using right now to inhibit trade with each other, and they begin to trade with each other. That now strengthens that relationship, and also what they begin to do is begin to develop their economies within their nations, as opposed to just selling commodities or giving commodities to Eurocentric interest. So we are very interested in having our conference being a part of that activity. And when you go to the website, you'll see not only the historically, but also what we currently plan this year as a way of continuing to address that as an ongoing issue.
Excellent.
So we'd love to be a part, and obviously recycling like dollars.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have to check with Jackie, but are you open to coming to the Breakfast Mixer in September? I think it's like the 9th or something before your event.
No problem.
So you can come talk about that.
But I do want to follow up on this very much, very much so we can talk about having an ongoing relationship.
Definitely.
I think it's an excellent idea.
And I'd like to follow up on the youth component.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We need to do that.
Yeah, I think, Crystal, you also have a youth component, too. So
I have an educational youth component, the entrepreneurial type program. And I'd like to introduce you to, and you may know Dr. Rosie Milligan.
I've heard the name. I'm quite sure I've met her.
Right, because she's the direct connection to Dr. Anderson and also George Frazier.
Yeah.
He's been having a lot of relationships and working with Africa. Okay. And so I think he would definitely, because he's all about right now wealth creation for us and for the African American people, the black people, period. That's what he could. And so when I went to the conference last year in June, it was all about that. It was all about our connection with Africa. There's tours that go to Egypt.
Great.
So I think you need to meet with them because George has a lot of connections.
That's great.
Phenomenal. So with that being said, this is a wonderful conversation. I'm loving this. My juices get flowing whenever I'm thinking about business and opportunities and all of that. So.
And we incorporated Jamaica in it this time.
Exactly. So
Gilbert, there's one resource that I want to share, TED Talk 2016, Ngozi Akonji Iweala, Rising Africa, how Africa can keep rising. So if you take a look, audience, it's a great TED Talk.
Yeah, great TED Talk, guys.
Excellent.
So we're going to wrap it up. I need a shout out to everyone that there is a grand opening for the Man Shave, a new business that we want to welcome to Inglewood. Man Shave Barber and Lounge. It is on Centinela and Hyatt Park. They're having their grand opening tomorrow from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, guys, stop by, say hello to TJ, who is the the new proprietor. He's got some fantastic ideas for the shop. So you want to go there, and I need you guys to go support the new Black Beauty Supply owner on West Century Boulevard in Inglewood. It's right there in front of Costco. So go to Costco, get your groceries for the children next week, and then go to the front lot there and go get your hair supplies from him.
And a shout out for the Village Health Foundation that did move, but moved next door to keep your health being your wealth.
Okay, and then we're going to all go to the Pan-African Global Trade Show so we can find out how we can do business in our motherland.
Definitely.
On the continent.
But also with each other.
Yes. And with each other. And talk about the CARICON and how we can forget about having to go through all the drama here in the United States. Just do business with our own.
That's what I'm
and making sure we pass the torch from elder to millennium.
Right, exactly.
Yes, pass the torch.
And that's exactly what we've been talking about, because instead of going after procurement opportunities with these entities that don't really care about small business, we can do it ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
We can do it ourselves. So this is phenomenal. So with about 2 minutes to go, we want to thank our guests for being here today. This is phenomenal. We had Denise Davidson. And we also had Mr. Alonzo Washington, and I learned a lot today.
Right.
I learned a lot.
Is there a way we can have a show about the CARICON? Well, you got some representatives.
We would love that.
If they're coming, I can make them available. I'm sure they would love to have the discussion.
Yes.
They'll be here. They'll actually be making their presentation on the 16th, on the first day of the conference, as part of our regional economic community discussion.
Right.
It will also include that as part of the UN decade, recognition of people of African descent. So they will be here. You might, well, I don't know if you can. You probably can. But if you want them to come, I can work on making them available for
you. That sounds good.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Both gentlemen are from Barbados. And one of them runs the Non-State Actors Reparation Commission there. and the other one is a businessman and a hotel owner there.
Beautiful.
Okay, yeah.
And the only thing that will be missing, Crystal, will be access to capital. And then once we get that included,
there you go. We're
great.
good. We're
We're
good.
great.
So I'm gonna this radio show on YouTube. I'll send it to both of you once it's
Yep.
uploaded, so you
Great.
guys can use
Definitely.
it to promote the show, and you can use it to promote what you promote, and we. That'll be good. So that way we can get the word out, get the show out.
Yeah.
You are here at the Business Zone. So, guys, we have some amazing conversations with some amazing guests. So help us grow. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this video. Once we get it in about an hour or so, I will post it. And this is a conversation that we need to keep having
need to have this.
until we make it to it is activated and manifested, as Denise and I are very good at doing, into a reality.
And
Because Africa is our home.
That's our home.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I just want to add this announcement real quickly before we get off the air. On September 20th, I'll be teaching a workshop for NABO. That's a National Association of Women Business Owners. And this is a workshop that is sponsored by SoCal Edison. So my company, as well as my strategic partner, Sullivan International, will be hosting this, and I'll be teaching that workshop. Probably going to have about 30, 35 women business owners there. Powerful organization. And the class that I'll be teaching is called Building Your Operational Capacity. So this will help small businesses understand how to build their infrastructure, what goes into the infrastructure. And as you know, any of you who attend my class, you know, when I talk about infrastructure, it makes a lot of sense, and it helps you to better understand your business. We take your business, we divide it into 4 categories. We do the business planning, general operations management, business development and marketing, and cash flow management. Then we build it out. So with that being said, we want to sign off today.
Yes,
and we want to thank our guest and Crystal.
Thank you guys
Thanks for
for
having
coming
me,
out, and we will definitely be interacting and helping out wherever we can. Gilbert, have a great vacation next
Thank you.
week.
I need it.
I'm sure you definitely need it, because
need
I
it.
know I could use one. Mine's coming in September, and we will see everyone next Friday.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So we're out.
We're out.
Okay.